everyone, welcome to my second YouTube video. If you haven't checked out my intro, go have a little look of that. I was going to say have a read, but you don't read YouTube videos, so go watch that. You can find out a bit more about me. But what I thought I'd do is I'd start with the Q&A. So I put out some questions on my Instagram account to get some questions from you guys that I could answer in this video. So there are a ton, and so we're going to have to go through them. My phone's not cooperating. There we are. Here we go. Disclaimer, I'm not a medical professional. I have lived experience, but please access professional help. I'm a big believer in getting that. I'm actually off to therapy today. Although I've been recovered for a few years, I still see my therapist every few months just for a little check-in and just to talk about life. And I think it's really important. I honestly think everyone should go to therapy. We're gonna start at the top and make our way down. The first question is, how did you manage to make yourself eat when you were struggling, especially fair foods? Eating disorder, in my case anorexia, didn't want me to eat, didn't allow me to eat. If I was eating, I was failing my eating disorder. And so in those moments where I really didn't want to eat, or my eating disorder was telling me that I wasn't allowed to eat, having support around me was really important. So I'm very lucky I had a really supportive family around me. My mum and my dad took control of my meals for a long time until I was in a place where I could do that appropriately. But having support around me really made a huge difference. Also knowing, and this is going to probably sound really drastic, that if I didn't eat, I was gonna die. That's the way it was gonna work, and I didn't want to die, and so I knew that I had to eat. In terms of fair foods, the thing I find really fascinating about fair foods is everyone's fair foods are very different. So something that might be safe to me is unsafe to someone else, and something that's unsafe to someone else might be safe to me, so it absolutely makes no sense. And honestly, the only way to overcome fair foods, from my experience, is to eat them. Every time you eat them, yes, there will be anxiety, but that anxiety becomes less and less each time. I can think of, oh my gosh, hundreds and hundreds of foods I didn't want to eat, and by eating them I became okay eating them, and now they're just part of my normal life. So the only way out is through in that situation, you've just got to do it, and making sure you have some support around you in doing that's really important too. Is recovery really worth it? This is an interesting question. We actually get asked this all the time. I can imagine, and I know it is so hard to even believe when you're in the middle of your battle. I had so many moments of being like, I don't want to do this, I can't do this, is there any point in doing this? You know, is this recovered life even worth it? No, I want to stay sick, I like having an eating disorder. I went through it all. As someone who has been through it all and now is really well, I can promise you that recovery is so worth it. I have so much brain space. I can eat what I want, I can socialize, I can go to bed without anxiety and stress and worry. Recovery is so worth it. I have freedom to go and live a life that I want to live without the restriction of an eating disorder. And that's possible. I believe that's possible for everyone. So please do not stop fighting for that. Recovery, the process is very hard. I'd be lying if I said it wasn't. You might find that your eating disorder screams louder, because that happens when you are fighting it head on, which is actually good. If your eating disorder is screaming louder, it's because you are fighting it and you are facing it. So please don't stop doing that. Recovery is so worth it. I don't know how to tell you this enough, but please believe me, it's the best thing you could ever do for yourself. Why is it so hard to accept that I need help? Accepting that you need help is one of the first steps towards recovery. I know for me, I thought I was fine. I liked to pretend I was fine. I was like, no, nothing's wrong. I'm all sunshines and rainbows, when actually I was breaking inside. And so accepting help is scary, because when you accept help, you know that there's going to be a process to getting better, and that can be really daunting. So in my experience, I was cautious of accepting help, because by accepting help, I knew that I was going to have to fight my eating disorder and my anxiety and my OCD head on, and that seemed too big and too scary. But it's so important to remember that you do not have to fight this alone. And so by getting help or accepting help and being open and honest with your team, because they can only help you if you're open and honest, you are going to start your recovery process, and that is so important. Although it's scary to accept help, there is nothing scarier than staying in the spot you are now. So please do it. Please, I really urge you, find someone you trust, take a friend along with you to your GP or to your appointment, and let them know that you are struggling and you need their help. Is it really possible to live without severe anxiety? I live without severe anxiety. So anxiety ruled my life. I was a anxiety ball of mess. A ball of mess, is that a word? I was just like my whole being was anxiety. I was full of it. Everything I did, every decision I made, everywhere I went, there was anxiety, followed me everywhere. Yes, Yes, it is possible because I'm proof. I would be lying if I said I still don't struggle with anxiety in some aspects. I know for me, flying in airplanes is quite scary as of recent, which is weird because I've been in lots of airplanes, and I'm really lucky now to have the tools to combat that, and so it doesn't take over. But yes, severe anxiety does not have to be your reality forever. I learned incredible coping tools and mechanisms and did some great exposure therapy to overcome that. So please find someone that can help you build that toolbox, because when you have that, if you're faced with anxiety again or something comes up, then you have the tools to combat that head on. So yes, life without severe anxiety is possible. I know it's probably hard to believe right now, but it is. I am living proof. What is the hardest part of my job? So for those of you who don't know, I'm the co-founder of a mental health charity called Voices of Hope. And I think probably the hardest part about my job is the fact that I just want to help everyone and I can't. There's one of me and there's hundreds and millions of thousands of you, and that was a bit exaggerated, but there's a lot of you, and I want to sit down with everyone personally and talk to them and share my story and help them, but it's just not possible. And so that's why platforms like these are incredible, whether it's TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, because I can use my story and give hope to you all at once. So yeah, that's the hardest thing about my job, is I want to be there for everyone. I've had to learn that I can't be physically there for everyone. I think another thing that's hard about my job is that we want so much change. We're working on creating so much change, and change takes time. And so when you're like, this is such a great idea, and New Zealand needs to do this and government needs to do this, and it doesn't happen overnight, it's like, ugh. But we've had to learn that it takes time, and so you've got to stay persistent and keep on chugging along. And in any of those moments when work is hard, we just have to remind ourselves of our why. It's the messages we get from people thanking us for saving their lives. It's the comments on the videos, it's the TikToks, it's the letters we get sent. That is our why. Knowing that our stories and our platforms making a difference is just the best thing in the world. How long did recovery take? And I want to start by saying recovery, the process is different for everyone. There is no prescription, there's no how-to menu, there's no pill you can take. Recovery is different for everyone. And even if you have the same diagnosis as someone else, for example, if I have anorexia and you have anorexia, or I have bulimia and you have bulimia, or I have binge eating disorder and you have binge eating disorder, etc., the way we experience that is going to be slightly different, whether you've got comorbidities, etc. So I can't tell you how long recovery takes. I know for me, I had a really intense 2.5 years, I think it was, of really intensive treatment, and then I was part of a kind of step down day program for a while, and then continued to see my psychologist for a few years. But it's important to note that every day I was getting better, and yes, I took a few steps back and I took a few steps forward and some to the right and some to the left, but I was working on recovery every day. Even on the days that I didn't feel like I could, I did, because I wanted to get better. I was sick of being unwell. I wanted to live a free life again. And please don't let that deflate you. I think it can be really hard when you don't know how long recovery is going to take, because it's like, is it worth it? Am I wasting time? You're not. Let recovery do its course. Let it take as long as it needs to take. Fully commit to it, and you are on the right path. Advice on people thinking mental illness is just for attention. This frustrates me so much, and I think again it comes down to the lack of education. I promise you, I didn't nearly die because I wanted attention. It doesn't work like that. That's just a outsider thing. That's just people not understanding. And so when people have said to me in the past, or made kind of snarky remark about attention, or maybe I'm just wanting it to be about me, or whatever it may be, I've just had to switch that and just think to myself, that's actually their problem. That's because they're unaware of how this works. They don't understand. I can educate them and I can let them know this is not for attention, it's a real thing. And I also wonder if it's one of those things that you have to experience, or someone around you has to experience, or close to you, to understand what it's truly like. Mental illness is not about attention at all, and I hope we can continue to break the stigma, because it is real, it is hurting people, it is something that so many people experience, and yet there's still so much stigma attached to it. If you could talk to your younger self, what would you say? What I would say to my 12-year-old self is that whatever is put in front of me, whatever challenges I'm faced, I am strong enough to fight them. I would tell my younger self that I'm gonna be okay. I'd give her a massive, massive, massive hug and say, hey Jen, you're gonna face some challenges, but you're gonna come out the other side and you're gonna use your story to inspire other people. You're going to be okay. Trust your team, trust the people around you, be honest, and never, ever, ever give up.